Hey guys, I just wanted to make this video real quick to talk to you guys about the camera. And my main goal with this whole video, we're gonna go check out in the sanctuary and everything exactly what we think it's gonna look like on a Sunday morning service and what some of your guys' different roles are gonna look like and kind of like the ins and outs of everything. And so I know most of the settings on the cameras are gonna be set up for you on Sunday before you come in. But say we're shooting a slow motion thing in an event or a music video or something like that, it's really helpful if you need to switch some kind of setting, how to do it and what some of those mean. So I'm just going to show you just some of those settings, what they mean, the menu here. We're going to start out just on this first tab, which is the record. Most of the time, if not all the time, with the slight occasion that we'll shoot in something called Cinema 4K, we usually always shoot in just 4K. And on top of that, the frames per second, essentially, if you don't know what frames per second is, it is when, so 1 second passes, which means if it's 24 frames per second, that means the camera is taking 24 pictures within that second. And so the higher you go, which these cameras can go up to 120, that means 120 pictures are taken in 1 second, which makes for a really smooth slow motion and stuff like that. But typically, if not always, we shoot in 23.9 frames per second or 24 frames per second, which is always something to keep an eye out on. You can see it on the bottom right here if it says 24, and you can see it in this menu. For other things, we did want to shoot in slow motion, we do shoot a lot of slow motion, especially on times like events or well, yeah, mostly events and sometimes during Sunday mornings. You just go down here right below where that was and hit variable frame rate, and you can go all the way up to 120, but we're just going to stop here at 60 just so I can show you. And so then how you'll know it's in slow motion is you'll see right here on the bottom it says VFR 60. And so if that's on and we're shooting like just a normal day or shooting a music video, you definitely want to make sure that's not there and that's off. So we'll move on to the next one. Video, you don't have to worry about that. Audio, you don't have to worry about that menu. The other menu that you need to worry about is the exposure menu. This is probably the most important. And I don't want to get into a ton about shutter angle, but the only time we ever touch shutter angle is if we are moving from inside to outside. And so inside, it's best to have the shutter angle on 180. It almost always stays like that, unless we go outside whenever it's like super bright. I usually just let the camera do what it does and put it on auto and adjust these other settings so I get the right exposure. The next thing we're gonna look at is aperture. Aperture is the amount of, so there's the lens right here, and inside the lens there's a sensor inside the camera, and the aperture, there's a little hole in the aperture. Is the wider the hole is, all the light that comes into it, the lower the number, so if it's like 1.8, the wider that is open, letting more light come into the sensor, which makes it brighter. Also, whenever you see in movies, like if it's a close-up of someone's head or something and the background is completely blurred, that is the bokeh. You're gonna get more bokeh at the lower aperture settings. And so if you see on here, this camera can go to 1.8, which is, it's gonna make the whole entire picture brighter like you just saw. But for Sunday mornings, we have the specific settings, but we always keep it on 4.5. And so it'll also get darker, and the depth of field won't be as much the higher you go, and it can go all the way up to 22, but I've never used that ever since we've had these cameras. The next is the ISO. This is kind of just like a little computer inside of here that's gonna help you like adjust your brightness to get the better exposure that you need. Right now it's sitting at 5,000. We usually do just keep it there, especially if we're shooting inside. Like I said, none of these stuff's really gonna change, and you can mess around with it if we are shooting like an event or something, or slow motion. It's a little bit less stressful, and you can kind of just focus on the more creative side of it. But we keep that there. The other and the last important thing setting-wise is the white balance. I have messed with this for a really long time, and we finally figured out that the right white balance that we like, at least for our style, is 3300 Kelvin. And so that's going to be on a scale. So the Kelvin scale goes from blue to red, so like cold and warm. And if you see something that looks like a really like sunny scene or something like that, the Kelvin scale is higher. It's more on like the red side. If you see like really cold, like wintry stuff, the Kelvin scale or white balance is typically below 3,000, where it is kind of cool. We keep it at 33, and then you add one more spectrum on top of that, which deals with like greens and pinks, and you add all that stuff together, and that kind of gives us, it gives the camera a chance to, I guess, capture exactly how something looks if you have the white balance correct. So we keep ours at 3,300 Kelvin, and then the tint is -7. So we lean more towards the pink side because our lights in the sanctuary can kind of turn people's skin a little green, so we have to compensate for that a little bit. And lastly, before we go out into the worship center, probably one of the hardest things that people deal with these cameras is that there is no autofocus, and there is only manual focus. And so this ring is for zoom, and this ring is the focus ring. And so we use this a lot. And there's this thing called peaking, and it'll look like either just some kind of colored line around something. Let me see if I can still get the camera to do it. So you kind of see that red, like right there. I'm kind of like focusing in and off of it. So wherever you see the most red, that's the largest focal point. That's going to be the thing that's most in focus. And so you see how it kind of like zooms into that whenever I do touch this focus ring. That's just like a focus assistant to help you get the best focus possible. What's recording is the screen that comes out of it after you do that. So I'm gonna just mess with the zoom. You see how it zooms in? It zoomed in. Let me get my focus. Okay, I got it. There's a little bit of red up there. I'm just gonna zoom back out. What's being recorded is this screen the entire time. You don't have to worry that, oh, it zoomed in real quick. That's just not what it is. So yeah, you see that red right there? That's where my focus is at. All right, and so I think for the most part that's it. I'm going to show you guys how to assemble the rigs, and on the smaller cameras are almost the exact same. They're the exact same camera, body, same speed booster, just a different lens, and they definitely have a different purpose. But I'll show you how to put the rigs together and some of the other stuff that you'll need, and then we'll go look at kind of what the procedures are in the sanctuary. All right, so these are the smaller cameras, and this is the rigs that we use. So first things first, there is an HDMI cable, an extra one already attached to this, and so if they're like this, it means we're typically shooting slow motion stuff, and so I'm going to take that off first, and then unscrew this little thing to get this off. And then there's two little screws on there that go into the bottom of this camera. But I also need to move this or the monitor, because we'll be putting it on this thing. So I'll just unscrew this real quick. And then turn this over. So as you see, I added the mount on the bottom that's going to be able to go on there. I usually just use like a coin. It's the easiest. So then we will literally just slide it on. You hear that little click. And then on the right side, there's a little dial that you'll twist all the way down to tighten it. And so then we just go ahead and put that HDMI cable in the back here of the camera, and we'll move this around. So actually, this is probably the trickiest part, which is this little floppy thing. It's called a tension rod, which means once I twist this up, it'll get more tension. But now on this little screw right here, we need to screw in the monitor. And so And then once that's tight, kind of position it where you want it to be. And then there's this little screw thing right here. And I'm gonna try to get it as straight as possible. Then I'm gonna tighten it up. And then that tension will hold it up and keep it straight. So then also I want to grab the other side of the HDMI cable and plug it into there. And then we are all good. This is the belt that we use. And so what you'll do is you'll just wrap it around here. I kind of like to put it on my lower waist. And then there's Velcro. What you want to do is there's these little pockets that look like this. And then I put this on. I'm going to put that down. That's my stabilizer. And so what you want to do is put the stabilizer in that pocket. And now you're all set. And it's this is where you can tighten it if you want to tighten it at a certain spot or loosen it. It's really easy to get, I guess, crooked and shoot crooked for a while. So just try to watch the grid lines that are on the monitor. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Is it recording? All right, so now we are in the sanctuary with the two main tripods in the back. The camera that goes on this one has the green. So the green, that'll go on the left side. That's the mid-range camera. And then the main camera will have the orange tape, and that's on this side. And I want to show some of you guys, you know, come up here, how to put some of this on. So this button right here, that's the release button, so when you have it on, and then this little knob is how you tighten it. So on the bottom are these rails, if you can see that, and all we do is just slide it onto there, and you hear that click, so it's not going anywhere now. But in order to do what we do after that, we do this little knob right here, and we just tighten that down, so it's not going anywhere. Now, we'll go through a little bit of the rules about what each of these cameras look like, and what each camera's job is on any given Sunday. So if this was the main camera that's on this side, you will always shoot at the zoom. You see the little numbers on here today? The zoom will always be at 200. Every single time, all the time. This is the main camera, it's the closest one, it gets the closest. This grid is extremely important, being that usually whoever we shoot, if it's somebody on the worship team or Pastor Mike, his body needs to be in this rectangle right here, the center rectangle. I don't care how fast he's moving, I don't care if he's sprinting across the screen, you need to be moving pretty fast. Something to be aware of, whenever Mike does go off stage, because he always does go off stage, this knob on the left side is really good to kind of always have in mind. So if I'm moving up and down right now, it's tightened and it's kind of tough to move this up and down. What I would like to do, so say he's going across the stage, and he goes down off, I flick this up, and then I kind of like go free-handed for a little bit. It makes it up and down go a little bit smoother, a little bit faster. And then if he's back up top and I think he's stable, then I'll just tighten that back up, and then now I'm good to go again on a smooth track whenever he stays on stage. So if you can see right now, Danae is filling in for what Mike would be doing. And so if you see on the camera, we are focusing, it's zooming in a little bit, and so we're focusing on the table where it's at. And so this is the best place to be. This is good headspace, really small headspace, small amount of it, but we don't want to be cutting off his hair or anything like that at the top of his head. So then if you just kind of want to move fast, I'll show everyone what. Yep. And so it looks like it's going fast, but I'm still keeping him in the exact center. Yep, go down. And all right, I just unclipped it And now I'm trying to follow this way. Just follow the best you can, because that is hard. And go back up. And then after I feel like I'm comfortable again, get that headspace room again and tighten it back down. And one of the other major things that you need to be doing is around every 5 minutes. I just call it a focus check. And I'll just kind of like move the focus a little bit and just see if I'm the best focused I can possibly be. Hold on, let me see what else. As far as the other camera, the mid-range camera on the left side, that one will always need to be between the rings of 100 and 135 millimeters, which is the numbers that are on there. All right, let's go check out what area you'll be standing at and some of the shots you could get if you were running like the small rig. On a Sunday morning, the best thing to do to get kind of like ahead of the crowd before everyone comes up to the front, if you're running a rig, obviously this isn't on a rig right now, but let's just pretend that it is. I didn't want to put another one together. But typically what I would do is I would come over here and like when the countdown's going, and I would just set it down around right here or whatever, because I want to be one of the first ones to get up in this space, so I don't have heads in front of me and I mean stuff like that. Also, when the time actually comes for live, there's going to have to be a cord in the back of this locked in that's going to be running to the wall right here. And so I want you guys to practice. This is like your guys' lane, like right here, which you can walk in, is what I walk on a Sunday. Is like I'm up front in front of anyone, and you usually get really good shots like right here. I don't want you moving anywhere else from right here. So that means you get piano on this side, steel guitar, Todd, probably a singer. Yeah, that's the best place to be. So if I was shooting, especially a service, something I've told you guys before, if you guys have ever been to any of our music video shoots or something like that, I just call it the 10-second rule. And that is either if, say, piano's the only thing playing, this job is to get that, to highlight the one thing that's happening at that moment. On top of that, if there is nothing, and it's like just a big time where you're getting everything, I call it the 10-second rule. That means stick on one thing for 10 seconds. If you feel like you've got that shot for a good 10 seconds, move on to the next thing, move on to a different person, because ultimately we want like diversity with these shots. And so I would want some singer or some piano and some steel guitar and some regular guitar, some crowd, wide shot. Honestly though, most of the time, if you're running one of these rigs, I want it like maxed out the zoom the entire time, because it's only 70 zoom. But if you max it out, you should get some good stuff. There might be on occasion that you could zoom it all the way back to like 28 and get like a crowd shot this way. Typically we want to stay away from crowd shots, just being honest, ultimately. And that might change, who knows? I'm still learning with you guys. This is just the best plan I came up with right now. Yeah, don't be afraid to be comfortable up here, walking back and forth. Everyone knows you're doing your job, you're doing what you're doing. So don't worry about people like staring at you or something like that. But yeah.
You're seeing a good competition.